Ambassador ji, if with your permission, if I could also pick your brains on a few other subjects. And I particularly wanted to talk about what's happening in our neighborhood. Now, Western neighborhood in particular. Now, recently, India hosted the Delhi Dialogue, which was focused on Afghanistan. And Pakistan, on the other side, has become very desperate to maintain its grip on the situation in Afghanistan. We saw recently that Shah Mahmood Qureshi, the foreign minister, literally blackmailing Europe and making it into engaging with Taliban. And Pakistan is also creating several obstacles for India, for India's initiative to supply food grains and humanitarian assistance via the land route. Now, what is Pakistan trying to achieve in Afghanistan, and where does that leave India and our policies going forward in Afghanistan?
That's a very interesting question. It's not easy to answer it, but I shall make an effort. Take a look at the map of Pakistan. I should be able to put one on the screen, but I won't. It's a very narrow country, doesn't have too much of width. They have the length, but east to west is very narrow.
Yes.
400 kilometers or something. They're afraid that Indian tanks will roll over.
Right.
So then they're planning from the time of their independences that we will regroup in Afghanistan. So they've always believed some term coined by some fool of strategic depth.
Right.
That we'll get strategic depth in Afghanistan. When Pakistan was created, Afghanistan voted against its admission to the United Nations.
Right. Yes.
The only country.
Right.
They don't like that.
Right.
Because when the so-called Durand Line was made by the then British Foreign Secretary Mortimer Durand and the Amir of Afghanistan, 1893, it said, okay, my influence on this side, your influence on that side.
Yes.
But Afghanistan was meant to be a buffer state between Tsarist Russia and British India.
Yes.
It was never meant to be a border. So it had a validity of 100 years. So it would have expired in 1993. But that the Pakistanis don't accept.
Right.
So Afghan said, look, we have Pashtuns on both sides of the border.
Right.
And if you want to go back further in history, then all the Pashtun areas that you have, Balochistan and others, all the way up to Gwadar Port, all the way up to the Indus River belongs to Afghanistan.
Yes.
And Pakistanis are terribly frightened. They are still not able to understand, I'm afraid, that now the tail is wagging the dog.
Right.
Pakistan is terrified of its own internal problems.
Yes.
It's broke.
Yeah.
They've begged the Saudis to roll over their loan, which is already $3 billion they'd give, for which the repayment is due this month.
Yes.
They're begging the UAE. They're taking some money from the IMF. And the IMF has imposed very strict conditions that you can't use this money to repay your Chinese loans. We have to see what you're going to do with it. Of course, every Pakistani is very, very happy when that country gets a loan, because 10% goes off to whoever's in power.
Right.
So they are corrupt like hell. I mean, there's no sense of nationhood. So in Afghanistan, what we are seeing now is a prolonged period of instability, of civil war. We are told the Afghans are starving. When we want to send 50,000 tons of wheat,
Right.
they block it, the Pakistanis. They create all kinds of conditions. Of course, it'll get to them eventually. Then when the Taliban took over, Pakistani leaders started dancing the Bhangra. Oh, India's $3 trillion investment has sunk. But then we had to tell some of them that this is my gift to the people of Afghanistan. It's not an investment like the Chinese investment where they want money back. I build a parliament, I give it to them.
Yes.
I build roads, I give it to them. I build a dam, I give it to them. It's my birthday. Thank you very much for giving me a gift, Mr. Madishetty. Thank you very much for this beautiful crystal bowl. If I smash it, how does it bother you? You've given it to me, you've gone home.
Yes.
What I do with it subsequently is none of your concern.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So what we've gifted to the people of Afghanistan, they're very pleased with it. It's the Pakistanis who are not happy. So what we are now seeing is the Afghans who prefer India any day, including the Taliban, to Pakistan. Then you have the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which is an offshoot of the Afghan Taliban. Then you have that Al-Qaeda fellow running around, also known as, then you have that Islamic State, also known as Daesh, they're running around. So everybody and his grandmother, every wretched Islamic terrorist is running around there, doing all kinds of funny things. And Pakistan suddenly realizes what a mess it is in. Incidentally, not many people know that in 1919, the first Indian government in exile was formed in Kabul at the end of the First World War. But then the war ended and the Germans lost, etc. And then the British put pressure on the Afghan Emir. He was funding this government. I've forgotten the name of the person, Raja something, who established it. Just recently, Prime Minister inaugurated a university named after this person in Uttar Pradesh. So he was the head of the government in exile, Indian government in exile, 1990. So we've had a very close relationship with the Afghans. You know, Kabuliwala, etc. From childhood, we have heard about that. My family is from Ghazni in Afghanistan. So the Pakistanis are essentially interlopers, which is how the Afghans perceive them. And so what Pakistan thinks, they've told the Chinese, oh, there's $2 trillion or $3 trillion, depends on who's talking, $4 trillion worth of natural resources. Come and take them out. Nobody will stop you. Mm-hmm. So Chinese said, well, what about the Taliban? Oh, don't worry about it. Taliban are my boys. I control them. Till the Taliban went and slaughtered some Pakistanis and slaughtered the Baloch rebels, and others slaughtered those 9 Chinese engineers. So Chinese came and said, buddy, you said you control them. What happened? No, we'll find out. It was a tire burst in the bus or something like that. They said, no, the tire might burst, but were there bullets inside the tire that it lodged in the heads and bodies of the Chinese workers? So the Chinese said, well, you don't control these guys. Pakistanis lied to them that we control Afghanistan. That's their fantasy. When reality is disturbing, there is always fantasy. You might like to believe that you control Afghanistan. You don't. It's Afghanistan that controls you now. George Bernard Shaw had once said, people are much more attached to their burdens than their burdens are attached to the people. And Pakistan has created these 2 burdens for itself, Afghanistan and Kashmir. The Kashmiri doesn't care. The young Kashmiri doesn't want to go with Pakistan. The young Afghan doesn't give 2 hoots about, doesn't care about Pakistan. In fact, in the 50s, some Pakistanis were talking about an Islamic union with Afghanistan. Afghanistan said, yeah, go right ahead. I was told by very senior Afghans. They said, yeah, go right ahead. We'll have an Afghan president, Afghan prime minister, Afghan vice president, Afghan army chief, Afghan naval chief, Afghan air force chief. You guys can be the drivers. So that idea of a union died at that stage, Islamic union. So it's important to understand that the game that Pakistan is playing is very dangerous. Yes. It's a Faustian bargain. It's come back to haunt it. And this thing about Shah Mahmood Qureshi going around telling the world that if the Europeans don't engage with the Taliban, then, there'll be funny things going on in Europe. The man has lost his marbles. I've heard him speak on many occasions. I've in person met him. Right. His thing, he's quite a, I think if there's, wherever you live, Hyderabad, if there's a circus going, they need a joker, this guy would fit in perfectly. Because when we talk to him, we say, sir, isn't the weather changing? Yes, we have nuclear weapons. So I was asking you about the weather. When does the rainy season come to Lahore? Oh, we have nuclear weapons. So I was asking you about the rain. So tell me, sir, there was, understand that you're setting up this plant to assemble motorcycles. Oh, we have nuclear weapons. Sir, we understand that. But he's mad. He's a lunatic. Right. And so this kind of thing didn't go down well. He hasn't repeated it. Yes. He couldn't deny it because it was on camera. Right. So whatever I'm saying to you, I can't deny it because it's being recorded. Right. These guys don't understand this. If it's a newspaper interview, you can always turn around and say, I was misquoted.
Right.
So what he can do and he's capable is saying, I misquoted myself. No one takes him seriously, just as no one takes his opium addicted boss seriously.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.